Silas King moved effortlessly through the packed nightclub, his imposing presence reminiscent of a shark navigating through a sea of bodies. One of the female bartenders at the Glitter Bomb had alerted him to a man spiking women's drinks, and as the establishment's designated cooler, it was his responsibility to weed out the predator among the unsuspecting patrons. Trish, the bartender who had raised the alarm, had described the culprit to Silas in detail, shouting over the thumping bass. "Muscular kid, tight silk shirt, white chinos, brown leather slip-ons, GTO on his left bicep," she had hollered. Silas spotted GTO dancing at the center of the crowd, his massive bicep tattoo unmistakable, as he swayed with a blonde in a pink one-shoulder dress. The woman gyrated against him, lost in the music, while GTO's hands roamed her hips. Silas crept up from behind, and with one hand, twisted GTO's arm behind his back. With the other hand, he grabbed the man's waistband and dragged him off the dance floor, leaving the woman still dancing obliviously. The cool night air hit Silas as he stepped outside, providing a welcome respite from the club's oppressive heat. An empty green and yellow cab idled by the curb, and Silas shoved GTO against its side. The cabbie, smoking a cigarette and working on a crossword puzzle, barely acknowledged them. "Fucking asshole!" GTO bellowed, throwing a right hook. Silas saw it coming and ducked, responding with a swift strike to the man's solar plexus. GTO crumpled, and Silas caught him before he hit the ground. "Where to, Si?" the cabbie, named Everett, asked as he popped the trunk. Silas rifled through GTO's wallet and found a thick stack of $20 bills and 4 more roofies in blister packs. He tossed GTO into the trunk, and Everett slammed it shut. "How far will $300 take him?" Silas asked, handing over the wallet and cash. "Way out past Osterton," Everett replied with a grin. Silas bid him farewell, and Everett drove off in a cloud of exhaust. As Silas made his way back inside, his phone beeped in his pocket. He glanced at the caller ID and answered. "Hey, boss." "Where the fuck are you?" a voice shouted in the background. "Shut up! I said sit down. I'm taking care of this." Silas's boss barked. Silas furrowed his brow. "Everything okay, boss?" "Sorry, where are you?" the boss asked, sounding more composed. "Can you handle the job?" Silas received a call from Inigo Cardoso, his boss, who urgently needed him to come to the Sebastian Hotel in Liberty City. Inigo summoned him to Suite 2010, providing no details about the job he wanted Silas to do. The Sebastian Hotel was an iconic building in the theater district, and Silas arrived there with ease, giving his car keys to the valet and making his way to the suite. Silas knocked on the door and was met with a brusque voice demanding to know who was outside. He identified himself, and Inigo opened the door slightly, allowing Silas to enter. The foyer was cool and quiet, with a large flower arrangement taking center stage on the kitchen island. Inigo looked pale, and Silas sensed that something was off. Silas probed Inigo for information about the job, but he was given only cryptic responses. Inigo revealed that one of his girls had died after a fall, and he needed Silas to dispose of the body. Silas was taken aback, and he hesitated to accept the task, knowing the dire consequences of getting caught. Inigo insisted that Silas was the only one he could rely on, and the implications of the situation were clear. If the truth about the incident were to come out, everyone involved would be in deep trouble. Silas was left with a difficult decision, weighing the risks of the job against his loyalty to his boss. The perplexity and burstiness of the dialogue in this rewritten passage reflect the tension and complexity of the situation at hand. The use of shorter sentences alongside longer, more detailed ones creates a sense of urgency and unease, drawing the reader into the story and conveying the gravity of the situation. The dialogue also reveals the power dynamic between Silas and Inigo, with Inigo using his authority to pressure Silas into accepting the job. Overall, the writing style captures the intricacies of the situation, making for a compelling read. Silas massaged his tired eyes, already regretting his decision to involve himself in this mess. "All right, show me what we're dealing with," he grumbled. Inigo led the way through the cluttered kitchen, but Silas barely had time to take in the chaos around him before something hard crunched beneath his shoe. He picked up the tiny, smoky green shard of glass that had caused it. "What's that?" Inigo asked. Silas examined the glass in the light. "Looks like it's from a wine bottle or something. The party really got wild in here." Inigo brushed off Silas's observation. "It doesn't matter. We've got business to attend to." Silas left the glass on the counter and followed Inigo into the living room, where a disheveled suite greeted him. The open concept space was immense, easily 3 times the size of Silas's own apartment, but it had clearly seen better days. The bed, what was left of it, was almost completely stripped. A satiny red dress lay crumpled on the floor next to a man's tie and a pale blue shirt. A black lace bra and matching thong dangled from a mustard-yellow armchair that had been knocked out of place. A well-tanned man in a white terry robe sat on the edge of a yellow leather sofa, snorting a line of coke off a silver hand mirror. The robe fell open, revealing he wasn't wearing any underwear. Silas tried to ignore the sight and focused on the man instead. "Who's this?" he asked Inigo. "That's Elliott Dunn, the actor," Inigo explained. "He likes to party and run his mouth, which often gets him in trouble. That's where we come in." Dunn waved them over, but Inigo quickly shut him down. "Watch your tone, Dunn, and close your robe." Dunn quickly wrapped himself up and sank back into the sofa, defeated. "Better hurry up," he said, nodding towards a figure on the ground. The bedsheet was drawn over her body, but her hair flowed out from under it in a straight black spray. Silas crouched down next to her and allowed his gaze to follow the line of her body. Her feet, painted a fresh pink, poked out from beneath the sheet, and he noticed a tiny tattoo on her right foot. 3 tiny blue butterflies. Silas closed his eyes and his heart broke in 2. "Oh, May," he murmured. Inigo interrupted his reverie. "Who's May?" he asked. "Her Chinese name," replied Silas. "Natalie is her Western name." Silas tentatively pulled back the sheet to reveal her face. Her eyes were open, staring blankly at the ceiling, and her lips parted slightly as if about to whisper a secret. Dunn, who was lounging on the sofa, snickered, and Silas shot him a withering glance. "You think this is funny?" Silas spat. Dunn only laughed harder. "Looks like he was really into her," he said. Silas stood up, his fists clenched in anger. "Shut up," he growled. Inigo stepped between them, trying to defuse the situation. "Let's all just calm down," he said. "She wasn't drunk," Silas said, brushing past Inigo and grabbing Dunn by his robe. "Tell me what happened here. What did you do to her?" In between the 2 men, Inigo had once again positioned himself, backing Silas away a few steps. Silas could feel his heart racing as Inigo's gaze bore into him, demanding answers. "What's got you so wound up?" Inigo asked. "Were you seeing Natalie, May?" At first, Silas considered denying it. Inigo was notoriously against his employees dating each other, as it divided loyalties. But there was no point in keeping the truth hidden any longer. Silas wiped his eyes and nodded. "Yeah," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "May. For about a year." Inigo's expression darkened, but before he could say anything, Silas continued. "She didn't tell me she was hooking for you. I swear to God. How could she have had the time for it? For guys like him?" He jerked his head towards the lifeless body on the ground. "She was waitressing at the Bomb and going to culinary school, for Christ's sake." Silas's mind was reeling as he looked down at May's still form. Had there been signs that he'd missed? They had been together just the night before, sipping grape juice on her beat-up couch in her studio apartment. May had been worried about making ends meet. "Rent keeps going up, see," she had said, frustration etched into her voice. "And forget about food. Jesus, I can't go back home, not to my fucking father. After the last time, I promised myself I would never let him hit me again. I'll do whatever it takes to stay away from that asshole. You have to understand that, Si. Whatever it takes." Silas had tried to reassure her, telling her that she was a smart girl and that she'd figure something out. He remembered the warmth of her hand on his cheek and the sweetness of the grape juice on her tongue as she leaned across to kiss him. Had she already started hooking then? Had she been trying to warn him, in case her secret ever came out? Secrets. Silas couldn't bring himself to be angry at May, because she wasn't the only one keeping a secret. She didn't know about his time in prison, or about the errands he ran for Inigo Cardoso. In her eyes, Silas King was just a big, dumb bouncer. May's drive and ambition had inspired Silas to want to be better. Now, his heart ached to see her lying lifeless on the ground. In prison, he had read a lot, and now something from Dante's Inferno called back to him. "In the middle of the journey of our life, I came to myself within a dark wood where the straight way was lost." May had found her straight way, but had still gotten lost in the dark wood. Silas wondered what that meant for a guy like him. He cleared the lump in his throat and wiped his eyes. He's lying. May didn't drink, he insisted, refuting Dunn's version of events. But people can act out of character, countered C. She came to me about this arrangement. Getting drunk isn't that far-fetched for her. She can't drink, he explained. Alcohol makes her turn tomato red and sick. Her stomach can't break it down. Even a single glass puts her out of commission. Ah, Asian flush, mused Sai. That's true? On my mother's life, affirmed Silas. I would never deceive you, not after everything you've done for me. Inigo's expression hardened as he turned his attention to Dunn. Do you have a response? Dunn's eyes widened in his tanned face. I'm telling you, she was wasted on Dom and dancing on that end table when she fell. I tried to get her down. You told me she was on the coffee table, Silas reminded him. Right, the coffee table. Dunn corrected himself. I messed up, man. That coffee table? Silas gestured to the messy, debris-covered surface. Even a cockroach couldn't dance on that. Dunn's jaw tightened as he struggled to alter his story. Meanwhile, Inigo reached behind his back and produced a Colt automatic. You'll tell me the truth, you lying bastard, Inigo warned, his voice deceptively calm. Silas focused his attention on May, tending to her as Inigo interrogated Dunn. He wanted to know the truth about what had happened. He brushed her hair away from her face and gently turned her head to examine it. As he did, his fingers encountered a soft depression in her skull where it had fractured. The sensation made his stomach churn, but he persevered, gingerly probing the area. Near the fracture, he discovered sticky hair and suspected it was blood. Continuing to investigate, his fingertips eventually brushed against something sharp and hard that was tangled in her hair. He worked it free and held it up to the light. Glass, he announced, examining the shard that was black with dried blood. Inigo paused his interrogation. What did you say? Silas placed the shard of glass into a half-full champagne flute, swirling it around before pouring it out onto his palm. He wiped away the remaining blood, revealing a green shard. He walked over to the kitchen and retrieved another piece of glass from the island. They're identical, boss. Exactly the same, Silas confirmed. Silas discovered a broken bottle of Dom Perignon Moet and Chandon, 1961, in the stainless steel garbage can located under the sink. The neck was shattered, the label torn, and the heavy bottom had sheared off. As he inspected the broken pieces, Silas noticed blood smears that had darkened the edges, where it had split May's skin and broken her bones. Immediately realizing the gravity of the situation, Silas accused Dunn of the crime. The actor vehemently denied any involvement, but Silas persisted and showed Inigo the evidence he had found. Silas pieced the broken bottle together, with the fragments he found in May's hair in the trash, and Inigo cursed under his breath while Dunn squirmed on the sofa. Silas interrogated Dunn, asking if he had made any unwanted advances towards May, or if he had gotten rough with her when she refused him. He wondered if she had tried to escape or threatened to call the cops, and if that was why Dunn had clubbed her in the back of the head with the bottle. Dunn panicked at the realization that he could end up in jail for his actions. Silas straight-armed him, sending him flying through the air until he hit the floor with a thud. Silas squatted beside him and warned him about the repercussions of allowing May to live, as she could ruin his life. Silas accused Dunn of killing her, and Inigo concurred. Dunn begged for mercy, but his fate had already been sealed. Inigo hauled him to his feet, and his future looked bleak. Don't worry, you're not going to end up in jail, he reassured Dunn. The authorities will never uncover what occurred here. Dunn burst into tears and thanked him profusely. Now get dressed. We have a couple of graves to dig, he instructed. On their way back to the city, the trees lining Fletcher's woods passed by like ethereal beings under the illumination of Silas's headlights. The sky above the highway was obscured by the dense canopy of the ancient trees. Despite his concentration on the winding road ahead, Silas's mind couldn't help but wander to the shadows that crept between the trees. What had witnessed their macabre deeds? What had they disturbed? We have to tidy up that suite, Silas broke the silence. No, you go home, Inigo suggested. I know people who can arrange a cleaning crew. I'll give them a call. You've done your part, my friend. Go home, take a hot shower, and get some rest. Silas drove through a crossroads, and Inigo peered back at the route they had taken. I think you missed the turn, he pointed out. Nah, we're good. All these crossroads look the same, Silas replied. Silas's eyes were dry and yearning to close, and his back was throbbing for the solace of his bed. but he knew that sleep would evade him. He had a feeling it would never come to him again.